Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back, or to the newcomers, welcome to this session. We'll talk about machine translation and post-editing, pretty exciting topic. Let me share the screen so that we'll be able to see something. Yeah, pretty exciting topic, and it will not go probably away. So we have to address it. And therefore, before we start, let me invite you to a survey because I'm curious to see which engines are you actually using. So which empty engine are you using or you plan to use in the future? Like there are some, yeah, people, I was expecting that one to be the first one. So there are a couple of ones that are really popular, that really stand out. I'm not expecting any surprises here. But today I wanted to show you maybe one that is not the most dominant, and it's actually, of course, also affects on where you are translating into which language. So if you are translating from Asian languages or into Asian languages, then you may be using different ones. DeepL is quite dominant in, let's say, European region or English speaking or European speaking or Spanish languages. So yeah, we have here the usual suspects. DeepL, Google, Microsoft, Globalease, Systran, and Amazon. And we'll check what is possible to do with memoQ. And usually we would combine machine translation with translation memories. What's also important while we see this appear, memoQ does not have their own empty engine, is not a company that is or will do their own empty engines. And also we do not aim to provide translation services. So that's maybe something to worth mention strategically, because some clients or prospects still confuse us with a machine translation provider, which is what we are not. So we provide the technology to connect to machine translation engines. That's something that we will definitely do because it's a topic that is out there. We want to make the most out of it, but we are focusing on different areas. And since we have the companies that are really specialized in that, we work together with them. So we got DeepL here, Google, Microsoft, Modern MT, and today actually we'll look closer into Modern MT, which is something I do not usually do, but this is a good case today because Modern MT is nice for training, and I'll show you why that is it. So let's go to memoQ, and I'll show you here what are the available options. So as said, we do not do our own machine translation engine, but we connect to third parties. So how would you go about it? So you would, if you want to use machine translation engine or machine translation services, then you would typically go to the resource console. There is one exception, and I'll explain. I'll tell you later which that one is. So you would have on the resource console in the last option, machine translation settings, the possibility to create any number of profiles. So you can connect to any number of machine translation engines and have different settings because they also have different settings. And some plugins allow you to do most of the things here in memoQ. And for some, you have to go to the website and register there and do the configuration there. So for instance, if we check DeepL's plugin, this one is pretty straightforward. You go to the website, you register, you subscribe to their services, which needs to be DeepL Pro, and then you would get the authentication key, which you would enter here. And that's it. Then you can select if you want to translate formatting and tags, which I would recommend you do because it's good, it works, and then you are good to go. You can use DeepL. There are some fine-tuning settings. So if you go to the settings, you can select if you want to use the machine translation plugin for pre-translation. You can also switch it off. And then you can also say, when do you want to display machine translation suggestions? So you can always display them. You can switch that off. So it will only be used for maybe pre-translation. Or you can display machine translation suggestions if you have no exact TM match from the translation memory, or no good TM match. So good is a value, which is by default 95, and you can lower that, or you can change it basically. So you will maybe save costs there, even though machine translation is usually not that expensive. Match patch is another feature where you can use machine translation. And match patches, think of it like that. Like an example, you have two sentences that are very similar. Let's say only one word is different, and you translate the first one, and then in the next one, machine translation can help you also translate that missing word if no other resources has that word there. So this can be useful. And self-learning, empty, that's the one that we want to address today. Modern NT supports that. Not many engines have this supported. So you have to look for those that do, and modern MT does support it. DeepL does not. So you can tweak the settings here, and you can have different profiles for different machine translation engines and different settings. So this is a simple, let's say, simple setup of a machine translation engine. There is also a bit more sophisticated one. Like for instance, if you are opting for an advanced Google MT engine, so this AutoML, you have to go through the process. You have to on the website. You have to obtain the authentication. You have to create an account. You have to register your credit card. You will then get this JSON file, which you would download and then you would use for authentication. And also all the configurations, like for instance, Google, this advanced allows you to create your own engines, train your own engines, and also use the glossaries to for terminology. So that all is done on the website. So it's not included in the Google in the plugin. So those plugins, as you can see here, for instance, now it's checking for this JSON file, and you can also create custom models or use custom models. So those are engines and glossaries. And you can also use machine translation to insert formatting or apply formatting and tags. I have that set up, so we'll not have to wait for that one. Now, one more thing that I would like to mention here: those plugins that you see here, those are public plugins and are available to everybody. The service that needs to be booked externally, so you have to go there to, for instance, Google's website and register, or any other ones as well. But there are also some clients, or you may be one of them, that have their own empty engine. And for that, you can also use our software kit, so SDK, with which you can then integrate your own engine into memoQ. That engine can be then public or your own very own private plugin, so that you can use however you would wish. So it's also possible, and this is the full list of the engines. Two are worth mentioning here: pseudo translation. Pseudo translation is kind of like a machine translation, but it inserts random characters which you can use for testing. That's really good for testing filters. If you want to see if your filter is fine, then you would just replace all the text with some gibberish text, and then you would see immediately if your filter is working fine or not. So this is one exception here, and the other one is also Omniscient Technologies, former Asia Online. That one is configured through the server administrator. So it's slightly different. So if you're looking for that one, it's in the server administrator. But today we want to try out Modern NT. And actually, I'll have you do some work on that one, or we'll do an experiment so that you will see how much does an engine learn. And of course, they also learn differently. And what are the options? So for that, I'll switch to this server. And we will use this modern empty where we will enable where we'll do some settings, change some settings. And you will notice here, if you click the configuration, that we can upload our translation memories to train this engine, or you can start from scratch and let the plugin, let the engine learn on the fly. We'll see how that goes. But this is the configuration. We can pick the available TMs. By the way, those are not TMs that you have on the server. You can export them from the server and upload them here, but they are not the same. So we can create a new translation memory. Let's say we'll give it a name, memoQ VS2. And then we can select if you want to use that, let's say sub TM, and if you want to update it. So this will then send the text to Modern and use it for training. So we will do that. And one more thing, under settings, we will make it self-learning, and we'll see how much it learns on the fly. Click on OK. And now we will also go a step beyond and apply automatic pre-translation. Machine translation in a corporate environment, well, that one is often used for pre-translation, sometimes even full machine translation if people want to just understand the text and then evaluate if post-editing is needed. But yeah, sometimes the manual processing of the files is skipped. So here we will be talking about applying machine translation in a template. Now, a template, a memoQ, can do a lot of things. Most importantly, it is there to automate the project preparation or the processes. So we will today create a very simple template that will focus on pre-translation and apply some common settings and skip the other ones today that are not relevant. So we will create a template, which we will then edit. Was maybe a bit too quick. Demo effect, always love that one. Yeah, I have to really now reset this. Okay. Oh, that's a proper one. Just a second. Yeah, it can happen. I'm doing sometimes things too quickly, and while the profile was creating, I was trying to open it, and sometimes should be a bit patient. So let's do it again. The good thing is that usually when you have templates ready, you don't have to modify them that often. So you wouldn't usually be expecting this to happen to you. but it's software. So one more thing that I would also like to mention when we talk about machine translation is that machine translation suggestions in the editor are currently only available in the desktop application, so not in the browser. In the browser, what you can do now is pre-translation, so that you would get the suggestions there ready. And actually, we'll do this scenario today. I'll do a pre-translation for you, and then I'll let you post-edit it a bit. So we got our server. Otherwise, I'll switch to the server. That's the server that we have used for several occasions, and there are really a lot of users on it. So let's give him a second to recover. Okay, so like that, and then the resource console, and then the project templates, and then this one, and then edit. Yeah, I will have to then work on the other server. Have to apologize for this one, but it can happen. So I'll work now on the other server. So there, maybe I will not be able to let you do the post editing, but I'll just show you how it would be done. The point is, what would be the goal actually for today's exercise is to do the pre-translation with the machine, and then do some post editing, and then we'll see how much it learns, and how can we also train it with the translation memory, and then we'll see if it learned from that completely or not, if there are some cases, so that you will see realistically what you can expect. And bear in mind that this will be different from tools to from engines to engines. So we will do that on this other server. And actually, I'll use the template that I have tried yesterday. Okay, so this is what we would be working with, a template where we would select the languages. I will not focus on the other parts. So the source language and the target language, this will be English UK. That's important to define here. English UK, English US, they are different. So make sure that that's all selected correctly. What's also then related to machine translation settings can be found under online project settings, and in the confidentiality measures. If you wish, you can also disable machine translation plugins. So we are talking today about machine translation, that's why I will not disable them, but if you would wish to control that, then you can disable it, so nobody will be able to use it. For this exercise, we will use translation memory, and I'll give it a new name so that we'll start from scratch. Okay, and then we will also go under the settings, where we will apply, where we'll use the Modern NT plugin. And then we will go under automated actions, where we will define a couple of things, not to manage really the basics. So basics to apply, let's say to cover the post editing, some basic post editing needs. So what is important here? Here there are a lot of options. let's just focus on what's really important. So here we can say what happens when the document gets imported. You see this little trigger. It says after document import, do what? And then you can click on it, and we have here applied pre-translation. So if we let me remove it, and let's add it from scratch. So click on the plus, and then we have a couple of options, and we find here pre-translate. Click on add, and then we can define which resources we will use for pre-translation. In our case, we only have the working TM, no master, no reference, no live docs. We could use them, of course. And then we can also say which matches from those TMs will be used. In our case, the TM will be empty, so it doesn't really matter, but you can say here good TM matches, so 95 by default or above. Any TM is 60 or above by default. You can change that. Yeah, it depends on how you want to set up machine translation. I've seen different cases. You also probably have thought about different cases. So maybe any TM or good TM match plus the empty would be the way to do it, depending on how much post editing do you want to do, if at all. And then let's say exact TM matches, if not, or good TM matches. If nothing is found in the TM, then we apply machine translation. In this case, modern MT. So this is one thing. We could also then lock certain segments, but we will not do that now. Versioning, we will though create a version after pre-translation because we want to compare the changes that we'll do. So we say after MT. And then statistics, well, we could also automatically run statistics. And then click on, this is analysis. You can click on OK. So this is one thing, pre-translation. We could also fine tune this. We could automatically assign linguists here. We can also repeat the same process when we would re-import a document. So we get an update, then we click on re-import, and this sequence of actions will also happen. But what will be important for today is we will, when the translator will deliver, we will calculate added distance from inserted matches. What this means is that we will calculate how much have we changed, basically the machine translation engines. We could also run post-translation analysis. They are, let's say, conceptually somehow related, just that this one takes a closer look into the sentence that you have and then just sees how much have you changed. And post-translation analysis will compare the changed match to the translation memory. Here we're not linking this to translation memory. Here we are. So, I'll also mention a reference book that you can read that explains a lot, that explains in detail those two functionalities. And also, this is a business discussion. Some clients actually build the whole business model around either post-translation or editing distance. So this is a topic where we could spend a lot of time. It's not really purpose of this session. Today, I want to show you how you can train the engine and what you can expect. But if you want to dive deeper into those two topics, there are books and there are also colleagues, maybe some even in the group, that can help you here. Or yeah, we can also discover the options together. So very, very interesting areas. So we will leave those two settings here available and then click on close. And then we will translate the file using the template. So we'll create a new project. We'll create a new project and we will be translating a nice little text. I have found on Rhodos, maybe if you're already planning holidays, now that it's still time for a possibility, we'll be translating something from Rhodos, pretty nice island, Greek island. And yeah, I can just recommend it. We'll be translating that one. We'll upload it. Click on next. And in the next screen, we will select the template. By the way, the templates, I mean, some clients really go beyond what we are doing. So if you have memoQ integrated into the system, you can trigger all these events from the system. And I'll talk about that later in the section in the afternoon about when we talk about integrations. But yes, you can really just use those services, machine translation services plus translation memories, and automate the whole processing here. So we got here our little templates selected, which is fine. Languages, okay. Project name, so click on finish. So basically that could be skipped. What we will expect now is that the project will be created, translation memory will be selected, pre-translation will be done with modern MT, and a version would be also created, and analysis would be run. So we have skipped quite a lot of steps already. And imagine, like, some clients really process a lot of files, several hundreds, thousands daily, or in batches. So we do not want to do this manually. And yeah, you can have the tools to automate that process. And that can also be all hidden. Like a customer portal is also one nice case where some clients just like to drop files in. They get them translated, either machine plus post editing, or fully human translated. So the templates are always the core part of that. And my colleague Philip will talk about the customer portal later. Okay, so we got here a little file, and I'll display some options by turning off the autopilot. I just want to check that the translation memory is there. So this is the one that we have created. We will also check that modern MT was chosen. That's something we can find under the settings. So this is modern MT. And we said that the analysis should be run. That one will be found under reports. That's also there. And pre-translation should be done. And that's something we find in the history. So here we got pre-translation is done. So we will now assign ourselves and give us a bit more generous deadline. And now translate this or post edit this. We could post edit this in the browser or in the client. That wouldn't be, the major difference would be that in the browser, you wouldn't see the suggestions from the MT directly. So they would be appearing in the let's say already as suggestions in the editor itself, not in the translation results. So we will check out the local copy, and we'll do some modifications. Yeah, here is where I wanted to use your creativity. I will not be that creative with the text, and since you are more an expert in that field, you'll be able to evaluate the translation. Okay, so this is our file. That is now pre-translated. And the status here is, I mean, the color is yellow. This means that it's from modern, from machine translation. Here on in the corner, you will also see the source. And now let's do some modifications. First time in roads, let's say that's fine. We'll store this in the translation memory. The most do's and don'ts a hotel, the most. Okay. Most do's in a hotel. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's say for now for this exercise, but this is definitely not okay, because blog should be here, and this should be here. Okay, now let's check if the engine learns. Yesterday it didn't, so we have changed this, and let's go back. And in this case, it didn't. Okay, yesterday was the same, but let's check this one. And this in autumn, yeah, that's actually the one that I changed, and it did learn. And if we say in this autumn, let's see, you see that this time it did learn immediately. The orange ones are the one, I mean, the red ones are from the translation memory, and the orange ones are from modern. And you see that this time it suggested without. And if we do it again, and this time in autumn, go back, it did learn. So that's something you can expect. I have seen that in some cases it did learn immediately, and in some it didn't. Of course, you will expect different behavior from different engines. But for instance, this one, I also spotted that this one was not okay. We can say does build, let's say, very, something like that. Tell village. Okay, try to confirm this. And now it did learn. So that's good. In some cases it does, and in some cases it does not. So let's maybe do one more. The beach is quite empty at this time. Shake the salty water, let's say. Salt water, salty water. In this case, it did learn. Okay, so that's all. That's all good. But like, we'll do the following now. We'll confirm this and deliver it. So when we click on the deliver, we will actually create a report to see how many changes were done. So here, if we go back to the project management view, we now have a new version, which we will also use. But what is important is now that under the reports, we also have here this post-translation analysis automatically created, which will show just no matches because in the TM we didn't have anything. So we had to translate everything from scratch, let's say. And under edit distance, we will see here that we had to work on those files. Now, as said, there are a couple of options here, how you can interpret this. Also, different measurement units, Levenstein and fuzzy, are still the ones being used. And basically, yeah, we see which categories of segments have we edited. And then you can, or some clients, build a business model based on that. So that's a business discussion. The tools are available for you, but what is important for us now is that we see the changes that we have done, just so that we will be able to compare them. You can at any time see and compare different versions of the document. By the way, let me focus here a bit. 1.2. What is left from the dot is the source version, and what is right from the dot is the target version. And then memoQ will sometimes in many cases automatically create versions. If you re-import, it will increase the left number. If you do the delivery, if you do pre-translation as we have done, if you do export, it will create a new minor version, and those versions you can use. If you go to the history and reports, you will be able to see here in the bottom the right numbers, so the minor versions, or here the major versions. And what we will do is we will compare the current version to this one and then export it. We will expect that the 3 or 4 segments that we had edited will be displayed. So we'll put this on the desktop. So this is also a good tool if you want to see who did which changes, and also maybe restore certain versions if something is not okay. So over here you'll be able to restore it, and those versions can also be triggered if, for instance, you can also do comparison reports. For instance, when the reviewer is done, you can compare the version from the reviewer to the translator. So those are the changes that we have done all there, which is fine. Now we will expect that the engine will learn. If it doesn't, you can help the engine. I have seen that with Modern. If it doesn't learn immediately, then you can still do the following. I'll show you. You can go to translation memories. You can export this to the TMX. You can put it anywhere you wish. Desktop. And then you can go to the plugin here or to the resource console. And then you can click on the edit. So here you can click on the settings. And then you can either update the existing Modern MT, TM in this case, or you can create a new one. So that would be both possible. You can either select this one or create a new one. By the way, you would see the changes immediately if you would disable this. So the old translations would be appearing. That's something I have noticed immediately. So yeah, you can create a new translation memory. The name, and that's it. You import. You can then select it. By the way, you can select several to be used, but only one to be updated here. And you can import from TMX. Import new, and that's basically it. So really no rocket science here. So that's why I really like this plugin. Straightforward. I don't have to leave the environment. I don't have to go anywhere. For some, it's not that straightforward. Also, I want to show you a terminology that's also something that you can use for training. As you have seen, Google does support it. Also, Amazon is pretty nice when it comes to configuration or using the existing glossaries. Let me just close this right now, and let me show you how Amazon can be trained with glossaries. So if you click on OK, if you click on Edit, and the settings, you'll be able to import the Excel. The Excel just needs to have, like that, for instance. You select a region that's something specific. Well, basically a data farm, but that's not important. That's not that important for this. What's important that you can click on the import and select the Excel, which just needs to have columns with headers, and then you will be able to use that to train the engine. Those are some examples of how you can use custom terminology. I hear you already, some of you asking, hey, can you do this dynamically? Can you link Qterm or term bases to train the engines, or can you use the live translation memories to train the engines? Translation memories, some yes. Term bases, that would be like currently the holy grail for integration. We are working on that, or we are talking to some partners on that. It is a feature request, a really nice feature request. And so if you wish to support it, send me an email and I'll pass on the proxy vote. But yeah, that's currently still on the roadmap. So that's what I wanted to show you today. How to train the engine, and let me do some promotion as well. If you want to know more about machine translation, post editing and things like that, our colleague Marek wrote really nice booklet that you can also purchase. It's affordable, but it gives you really good insights. I think Marek costs, I mean, this book costs like 18 euro. So for the translator that wants to use machine translation, that's really a must-have. So thank you, Marek, for that. And if you have any questions, now it's the time to ask. You're not seeing modern empty in the list of empty services. Okay, which, yeah, I would need to check which version of memoQ was started to supporting this, but it can be that in the recent ones that one was introduced. So if that's not the case, if you're using the recent version but not seeing the empty, the modern empty, let us know and we'll fix that. Then just a second. Does this post-edit analysis work with all the empty providers? Could you please show again how to set it? I mean, post-translation analysis will actually only take a look into the translation memory matches. So this is what I wanted to point out. It will not consider machine translation engines. So if you want to see how much has changed or how much did the linguist change, so the translations based on the machine translation, that's where you use added distance. Post-translation analysis is useful if linguists are working with translation memories. And there is actually one use case I particularly liked to use post-translation analysis, and that was when a lot of files were working on a split document. If you split a document, it's all fine. There is one little problem, and that are repetitions. If you have a lot of repetitions and you split the file, you do not know who will translate the first instance. So it's not really fair to do the analysis and say, yes, translator number one gets the first instances and all the other ones get repetition. So, and they are maybe paid less or maybe none or something like that. But then the reality can happen that the linguist number two will do the repetition, will have to translate the repetition first, but will not get paid for it, which is really not fair. So that's why you would use post-translation analysis, which will show you exactly who did the first instance of the repetition and who took the repetitions. Can you provide the URL to Marek's book? Most certainly I can. There are a couple of places I think you can buy it. I think maybe even on Amazon, but this, I'll gladly share that with you. So everyone, there we go. Not this one. This is the word I was trying to copy in the editor, but that one will be correct. Or thank you, yeah, Maximilian already shared. It's great. 9.5.11 is the version. It should, I think, be there. If it's not, yeah, I would need to check. But you can also download the latest version and see if it's there. And if it's still not there, Guru, please send us a ticket and we'll help you figure that out. And there is a thing in DeepL that you can use the glossaries to train your engines. This is currently not yet incorporated into the plugin. So if you would wish to have that, please also send me a note and I'll add a vote, because there is also a feature request for that. So then there is also the Asia Online. which has a slightly different workflow from all the other ones. So you will see Asia Online or Omniscient Technologies. So if you are planning to use that service, you can go to the server administrator, and there you would see a specific category, Omniscient Technologies. Here you would log in your here you would enter your login information. By the way, you can register on their website, and the workflow here is slightly different, because if you are using Omniscient, what will happen is that memoQ will send the whole document to Omniscient and then pre-translate it there and then receive it back. That's why you will also have, if you define memoQ templates. So project templates. Let me show you this one. There are specific categories. See, document translation received from Omniscient, and you can apply certain things here. So this is a special case. I think Omniscient was the first one that we have integrated. So it's pretty long-term partner, and all the other ones are slightly different. So you can also, I don't think, use machine translation suggestions on the fly from Omniscient, so you always pre-translate the whole document. So maybe that's something that somebody can confirm if they use Omniscient. But as far as I know, you can only send the documents. So yes, training of machine translation engines, that's, as you've seen, done slightly differently. For some, you have to upload translation memories through the plugin. For some, you have to go to the website and train them there. I believe that, but this is something that could also be a bit broadly interesting. There are some clients that are actually trying to integrate currently with us that are focusing on terminology exchange. I think Cordovan is the company. So this may also be a nice project. So dynamic terminology, or let's say dynamic learning based on the terminology. What else could be there interesting for machine? As said, if you're using a customer portal, or if you have your own portal, the backbone of the automation is always a template. So you can use this template, which includes machine translation, standalone. Like, you can create projects based on a template, or if you have integrations, like for instance with Plunet, XTRF, or other systems, they also can use templates to a certain extent and automatically machine translate suggestions or machine translate documents. Some clients have quite interesting use cases. For instance, PDFs are interesting. So if you want to see and understand the PDFs and that's it, you can just drop them and get full machine translation back, and then evaluate if you want to do the proper translation or just stick with what you have. So let's say it's good enough translation, or let's say proof of concept of a translation. So if you would want to know more about templates, we can definitely talk about that in a separate session. But yeah, this is the pillar, this is the foundation of all the automation.
We have a question from Colin.
Yes.
If you could briefly demonstrate match batch with MT.
Aha. Okay, I'll try, because I'll try to replicate that. So let's go ahead into this document. And let me go back and do here. Let me find some sentence that I think could be appropriate. maybe this one, im Herbst, or it could be too short. Yeah, let's try this one, or let's try this one. So what we'll do first, let me clear all the translations and all the translations. Yes. And then I'll do one more thing. I'll take this sentence. Oh, somebody. Yeah, yeah, I got the translation from, okay. Yeah, the server synchronized, that's why I got these translations there, but I actually do not want that right now, but we'll say Rhodos, Lindos. And it may work, let's say Lindos. So if we would now, I need to clear, and I'll maybe switch off synchronization, clear translations. Yes. Okay, so I will use first time in Rhodes, and then let's see if it does. Yeah, actually I did. Yeah, it did work. So you see, when you see match patch, there will be an exclamation mark here that will tell you in the bottom part that we have jumped from 85 to 93%. And because, I mean, okay, Lindos, we didn't have it in the translation memory. We didn't have it anywhere in the other resources, term bases, which could also be used for match patch. This Lindos came from machine. So that's how it would work. If you would have different tools, like term bases can be used as a source for match patch, auto translation rules, non-translation rules, but machine translation as well. So this, pay attention to this exclamation mark. Any other questions?
We have around 3 minutes. So maybe if you could say something about data safety / privacy. And then
okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, all the engines that you have seen here, they are third parties. So if we are talking about data security and legal policies, please read the empty engines providers terms of services or legal terms of services, so that you see how they treat data. Actually, there was, if you are reading Translate Toolbox Journal, Jost wrote something about that. I think he mentioned three: Microsoft, DeepL, and Google, how they treat the data, and maybe somebody else. But please read that so that you will yeah, see what happens to your data. We do have to send it, of course, to third parties, but there are some exceptions. Clients sometimes ask for offline machine translation, so to switch it off from internet, and some providers do have that service. For instance, Sistran does have that. I think also Globalis has this, and some other ones probably as well. So you have your own offline empty engine that you can train, combine it with translation memory matches from memoQ, but that's also something that can happen also for extremely confidential documents, for extremely sensitive environments. That may be option. It is though a bit more pricey, but still, if you need it, then some clients are willing to pay for that. So yeah, we also, when you use plugins, we also display a big pop-up message saying that, yeah, GDPR and all that, so that you are aware that the content goes to them, but we do not process it. So that's it's purely third parties plugins thing.